Welcome, everyone. We're so grateful that you would join us for this Q&A session for Intro to the Next Economy MBA. My name is Erin, she, her, and the invitation for folks who are joining us to share your location in the chat. We are recording this, so the whole content will be recorded and shared with you afterwards in case you need to drop for any reason or can't stay the whole time. And yeah, you can share if you're calling in. I'm calling in from unceded Ohlone territory, also otherwise known as the San Francisco Bay Area. And we are so grateful that you are excited about this course and interested enough to share an hour of your time with us. So the agenda for today is we're gonna take just a few moments to talk a little bit about the Next Economy MBA, why we're doing this. Then we're going to go into lift intros, just 5 minutes so you can meet some of the facilitators. And then we have a testimonial queued up, which we're so grateful. And Sean, maybe if you can support me in if Nadia needs any help getting in. I don't see her in the chat room yet. So and then we are going to go to your questions. So yeah, how does that sound? I mean, most of this will be highly interactive, and we'd love to hear firsthand from you what is alive for you. Okay, so without further ado, what is the Next Economy MBA and why are we doing this? So I'll just share a very brief reason being we have been Lift Economy, we're over a decade in existence and we've worked with hundreds of social enterprises. And through the course of our existence, working with mostly on retainer with companies from feasibility to proof of concept to scaling, we started hearing a murmuring in 2016, 2017, requests for, hey, I'm not really at the stage where I have a company and I can afford to hire you for consulting, but I'd love to learn everything it is that you're learning through working with these social enterprises. So we started getting demand for this sort of one-to-many approach of basically packaging up what we teach in our consultancy relationship with many more entrepreneurs, individuals, people who are interested in sustainable investing and wanted to know the nuts and bolts of how we think about values-aligned way of doing business. And really the vision of Lift Economy is to create an economy that works for everyone with no one left out, to really create an economy that works for the benefit of all life. And in doing so, we need all of you. We're so honored that you are here today because we need you. So that request for accessibility was in 2017. And fast forward to today, we have more than 400 alumni. We have a book that is coming out in the spring called the Next Economy MBA book. And the alumni network is just so vibrant and connected and growing and getting more so each day. So who is this for? This could be, this course could be really for team members who are already working in Next Economy orgs and just want a little bit more skills, tools, resources to hone the efficacy and skillfulness in how we do non-hierarchical democratic decision-making and consensus building, or all the other aspects that we do in our Next Economy organizations. Could be for individuals looking to transition into the Next Economy or even bring Next Economy values into your current work. And it could be even for someone who's looking to invest or fund Next Economy organizations and wants a little bit more nuance and language for how to discern what is Next Economy. So I will, with that, I think I will pass it to Sean to kick us off with the Lift intros. And
hi, everybody. Sean Berry, he, him. I'm in Lenape land, mid-Hudson Valley of New York. And wow, very happy to be here, see all your beautiful faces. Quick intro on me. I am a serial cooperator. I've been cooperating in many organizations for about 26 years now, and also a co-founder of Lift Economy. And yeah, I came to this work. I first had a woodworking cooperative where I really learned kind of a long, slow, hard way of how to run a beautiful little values-driven enterprise, and then saw across the movement there was so many organizations that had a really important piece of the solution that they're bringing, but they either didn't have the business mechanics for it, or they had kind of an allergy to capitalism in general, and then therefore were not embracing some basic organizational structures and systems and such. So that was kind of the inspiration for Lift Economy. And let's see, I see Kevin is also with us. Kevin, are you in a place to give an intro?
Yeah, I'm out of the office and out and about, a little bit peripatetic today, so sorry about that, everybody. But I'm present. Briefest of check-ins. Kevin Bayuk, he, him, and at Lift Economy, I do a lot of technical assistance for community-led initiatives for community wealth building projects, and I have a background in everything from technology stuff to working on global warming, climate change stuff, a lot of ecosystemic design, regenerative agriculture, permaculture, land-based stuff as well. And I'm very excited to see you all here and dig into your questions and make this an interactive exercise. Back to you, Erin.
Hello, everyone. So, yeah, I know I've been talking a lot, and I promise I'll be brief here, but just by way of some introduction and how I came to this work, my background is in agroecology and regenerative food systems, food justice, and I'm really honored to be able to do that work now in my consulting work. I work with Indigenous farmers in northern Minnesota who are creating a bioregional hemp textile economy. I work with restorative ocean farmers who are really looking at how do we grow food and fertilizer for human sustainability in our coastal ecosystems in ways that restore coastal ecosystems. And I'm so humbled to be able to bring sort of the nuts and bolts of business that we teach in the MBA course, but through a really values aligned way to farmers and primary producers who firsthand really grok the impact of our business as usual economy that just squeezes agriculture, squeezes, extracts from people and planet. And to be able to work with people who in such an inspiring way are doing it differently, and really meeting our human needs and sovereignty and self-determination in new non-hierarchical justice-oriented ways. I will also mention there are facilitators in this course that aren't present on this call. Phoenix Soleil, a practitioner of compassionate communication, nonviolent communication, play, improv, anti-oppression work. She is a partner and worker owner at Lift Economy, and she's not able to make it to this call, but she's also a core facilitator of the course. And then Ryan Honeyman, less of a key facilitator of the course, but comes in, we pull him in for B Corp. He's the author of the B Corp Handbook, and he's also a partner, worker owner at Lift Economy. And Jeanette Moreland is also a team member at Lift Economy. She's on the call and is our marketing lead. And I don't know, Jeanette, do you want to say, not to put you on the spot, but Jeanette's expertise in marketing weaves into the course as well.
Yeah, just want to say hi. I joined the team in October of last year, so still super new, but have been getting to learn along with our current cohort, Cohort 9, and it's been a blast. So excited to be here, and I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So I am so grateful that we have a current participant in the course here to share about the experience of being actually in the course. We found that this is really valuable for folks looking at considering signing up. And at the last minute, I will say, Nadia, thank you so much, because our other testimonial participant texted me this morning that she has a COVID booster and is not feeling well. So Nadia, thank you. And the prompt I would give you for sharing what would be useful, I think, for this community would be how has it been influence on you? Like what have you gleaned from the course so far? And if there's anything you would share with people considering taking the course. So it's pretty broad, open-ended. And Michael as well is here. I wanted to mention that, but we'll hear from Nadia first. And the floor is yours, Nadia.
What have I gleaned? Okay, so because I have a bit of a background in economics and finance stuff, what I really appreciated about this, and very, strongly rooted in being a former capitalist. I'm a capitalist in former capitalist in recovery. I would say, this program, my sense is that this program gives you pathway of support intellectually and in the body, I would argue, to support a new way of imagining something outside of the traditional structures of how we've arranged how we exchange economically. And so woven throughout is this sense of community, whether it's the pedagogy that's being taught, and also just the way that we conduct ourselves in the actual program, and the way that Aaron and Sean and Kevin actually conduct themselves in the program. It's very, they're like our equals. They're our little pathway guides on this journey, and for me, that's what it's felt like, because I did it because I'm called to evolve. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's complete for me, really. I don't know if that makes any sense. What was the other part of the prompt?
If you could put yourself in the shoes of someone who's totally new to the program, is there any advice or pieces of, things to contemplate as they're considering signing up?
Yeah, I would say that, the level of engagement is really up to you. The more you engage and the more active you are, the more you get out of it. And so I find that I'm an introvert. And so this is weird for me being here giving a testimonial. And having said that, I'm very engaged in this program with all of them, and especially my cohort. And outside of the program, I have an active affinity group that we meet every other week, and I'm getting so much out of it. And that right now, I don't actually have to do much imagination. There's so much out there that is doing the imagination for me. I get to just tap into it. And so I feel like there's a flow, and I'm on that flow, not because I have to create something, which I'm happy to do too, but it's just been that useful. And so from a participant's perspective, I would say that you get to contribute all that you are, and you get to receive a ton. Yeah.
Thank you. And we do have, I'm imagining some folks live on the call may have some questions that are bubbling up for them, for someone who's actually a participant in the course. So this would be a good time if you wanted to ask Nadia or even Michael a question. Yeah, just curious what's alive in you.
I'm curious if it's okay if I ask
Please,
a
Jamie.
question.
Yeah,
My name
please.
is Jamie, for Nadia or Michael. What are some things that were curiosities, I guess maybe more specific curiosities for you, that you feel like this course has gotten given you the opportunity to explore or answer? Maybe questions you had beforehand that have now been more explored, or maybe you could phrase it as like a curiosity or question that has now been maybe answered or explored by the course?
Okay. Yeah, I had a real curiosity around the racialized pieces, around the experience of being a racialized person in this space, participating with white body, as Resma Menakem would say, with white bodies and bodies of culture. And I can tell you that what it answered for me was that this team at Lyft and my cohort are very committed to that. And my level of safety increased in that program in relation to those pieces. And those pieces are very important to me and very important to my work. I was impressed, frankly. And I don't say that often. I don't say that lightly. So yeah.
I appreciate you answering.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Alan.
Hi. Hi, yeah, I'm Alan Barth. Sorry, I had an unavoidable conflict, so I just got in here. But my question is in regards to the focus of the Lift Economy program. I've got the
B Corp handbook. Yep.
yeah, the B Corp handbook. I can't get it to come on. Anyway, I'm in a spot. I have a Bachelor of Science, Environmental Studies and Energy Management, and I've been consulting for that for about 25 years. And I want to stop working for others and start my own business. And I'm think that I understand that the B Corp format is not for a one-person business, but am I correct about that?
So right now, Alan, because you just joined, we're asking just questions from Michael and Nadia, who are current participants in the course. And so maybe if I could reframe your question, it might be, how has this MBA course supported someone who wants to start something, someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, and sort of the frameworks? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
That sounds great, yes.
Okay, awesome. Great. And just before we go to your question, it's so potent. I just want to name one other piece that got brought up in what Nadia shared, because I don't want to glaze over that. The piece around, we have components of the course that we invite folks to join, what we call affinity caucuses. We have a caucus for white identified folks, and then a caucus for people of color or bodies of culture, as Resma Menakem talks about. And that really allows us spaces for to bring our identities and really grapple with the implications of racialized capitalism on different identities in this space and in the space of talking about economy and talking about how to shift the economy. So I just wanted to mention that as well in case it's useful for folks on the call. But going back to Alan's question, Michael or Nadia, do either of you want to speak to the experience of starting something new? Has the course been helpful from like skills, nuts and bolts around entrepreneurship?
You want me to take this one, Nadia?
Please.
Man, this course, it has done so many things for me. The ability for the people who are holding it, the Aaron, the Sean, the Kevin, like the way they show up. Like I was lucky enough to have, I mean, unlucky maybe, but like people didn't show up to a lot of the office hours. So I got times alone with the Seans, the Kevins, and they didn't jump off. They held that space for me. And some of those moments have been some of the biggest moments of growth I've had in my arc of business, my arc of journey. And like I showed up to this thing not trying to be a new business. I'm kind of a sole proprietor, and Kevin kind of brought me along and gave me the time, and the education you get from it is amazing. And the effort that they give is amazing. Like they show up for you. And that is something that is very different for me in my educational arc. And it has been really, really valuable. And the people you meet along the way, I like those breakout groups through this. Oh man, like some people starting businesses, doing businesses, whatever they're doing, like the community you get from it, the affinity groups, it's fantastic. And it is very, very worth it.
Michael, thank you for sharing that. That helped fill in very good. I appreciate it.
Sean, you wanted to add to Alan's question? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Alan. So, B Corps, it's a specific, it's actually a third-party certification, right? So there's a nonprofit B Lab that will certify an organization to meet their standards. Certainly fine for a sole proprietorship, not a problem. In fact, I think the only thing you can't do is be a nonprofit. And there are some legal requirements, etc. But I will add that that's not what makes your business successful, right? You have to have a viable business model. So just because you're a B Corp doesn't mean you get to run a successful business. So we address entity structures and different strategies, but really want to support the participants in I would describe it as wholeness. Like, what is every single thing that you would need to consider in starting, running, growing an enterprise, and then supporting you in addressing those components in strategic order that's particular to your stage of development, right? So if you have a product and service that works and there's some traction in the market, and then maybe it makes sense as a B Corp for, essentially a strategic partnership or a market segmentation that would enhance your product or service offering. So yeah, I hope that helps, but it also I think can help to understand that we're trying to expose you to a big picture and then drill down into those kind of more tactical considerations. And so the curriculum kind of addresses that wholeness, but then we have the office hours and also just the sessions themselves are highly interactive. So we have agenda, et cetera, but we very much prioritize participant engagement and questions, and often tailor in real time to preference the curiosities that are coming up. So we both try to get to this wholeness and then respond to those type of tactical questions. So every session is followed by an office hours. You can ask questions on the previous session, or you can ask any question at all.
Sean, that does help. Thank you.
We're going to actually live into that and practice that right now, that presencing of what's alive. And Nadia and Michael, no expectation for you to hang on if you need to drop, and you're of course welcome to stay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and being with us this morning. And we are going to transition into questions. Thank you, Nadia. So we have a number of questions that have been pre-seeded, but we are always orienting for what is kind of alive in the room. And so as questions come up for you, you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. You can drop it in the chat, but we are at the point where we're going to address your questions about the program. And we'll try and weave in the pre-seeded questions as we address those. See Arno unmuted. Go
Yeah, I have so I guess Michael, because I think Nadia dropped off, but I was curious if there was anything sort of really specific that you learned in the course that sort of like, I don't know, defied your expectations. Because I guess I think a lot about this process as being like a process of unlearning, and that there would be moments of resistance or surprise, or that, is it really possible to do something this way? And is there anything like very specific that you learned sort of, about a structure, a way of operating, a way of relating that you could share with us?
For me, like they give you so many resources, which is something that was nice for me. They give you the links to go back and look into. For me, it was like websites, like you're normally looking at whatever website you look at. We're all humans, we look at our websites. But to be able to go into looking at something different, and I came from the entertainment industry where I was very much business as usual. And what they did for me is kind of reframe how I viewed business as usual, and then gave me the resources to go back and to educate myself further. And then to be a resource where if I had questions, to be able to reach out and ask, and they're there. That was huge. Like it kind of reframed how I viewed business.
Thank you, Michael. Did Arno, did that answer that feel?
I guess I wanted like just like a really specific example. You said like it reframed how you view business, but like what's an example where you're like, that's completely changed like how I even see the world?
A great question. Like, I mean, just keeping things within 100 miles of you, like that whole aspect of it all, like the bioregional of it all.
Could you describe what that is? Because I haven't been through the course, so I don't know what that means.
That that you can get lettuce for 99 cents in New Jersey that comes from California. Like things like that, just how you look at what's around you and helping the people around you, and where things come from and how you view the things around you. I mean, it's kind of a full-fledged, all-encompassing course. Like you're going to learn things you didn't know. And for me, things I needed to know.
Thank you, Michael, for being willing to sit in the hot seat. These are great questions. That and just to frame it up, the bioregionalism, we have a fun exercise in the course where we talk about, we look at and analyze the supply webs or chains as it's called around tea, Camellia canensis, and looking at what are the legacies and the implications of the existing business as usual supply chains, and then how can we reimagine tea, and how can we reimagine a component of that as being bioregionally rooted in community and rooted in our watersheds, our fiber sheds, and we also talk about the complexity of that, right, around products have been traded globally for millennia, and so not to be absolute about it. It all has to come from one local bioregion, but really to look at the nuance and the discernment of how do we create global supply chains that actually lend sovereignty and self-determination to the producers and be in partnership with producers. And that's such a rarefied occurrence in our business as usual economy, that producers actually, even with fair trade, even with some of these really good certifications, so rare that producers actually have decision making about pricing and supply webs and all of that. So just teasing out all those nuances. Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can also, Michael, I remember, you kind of feeling your way into a career transition, new industry, new relationships, right? And doing some word of mouth campaigns, making some introductions, getting involved with some new teams, making your skill set valuable. So those are some of the things I remember from your journey that we were able to support you on.
Yeah. It's been incredible. Like that's the thing for me. I was on the fence when I first started too. Like I had my meeting with Kevin, and it's like, oh, I am my own entity. I'm trying to consult. Like I'm trying to change careers, but the education you get behind this thing and the support you get is incredible. And having the conversations with you all, you teachers, it has helped propel me in a way where it's like, oh, I have been able to do the things and I am a successful part of Lyft economy, and it feels great. And it's hard, but it is reframing what is necessary and going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the education is the education, but like the support is what's fantastic. The network, the community, like that is something that you just don't find.
Thank you, Michael. So we have a question from Jamie, and then I see Kellen's question. So Kellen, if you could hold that, make sure you write it down so we don't lose it. So Jamie's question is really about the logistical format of the course, days and times, are there any in-person location aspects of the class? I'm wondering if I can invite Sean. Do you want to respond to this? Great.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So basically, it's a 9-month webinar. We have 18 sessions. They are 90 minutes long every other week. There's some skipping of holidays and such. Following every session, there's a 1-hour office hour on the same week, where I mentioned already, you can ask questions about that specific session or anything at all. We do have racial caucuses. We have a White Allies caucus and a People of Color caucus that meet separately monthly throughout the course for those groups to process the information in independent space. We can answer more questions about that if that's interesting. We also have affinity groups. Actually, after this call, I'm gonna be on the worker cooperative affinity group. We've had regenerative agriculture affinity groups, building resilient community affinity groups. We just had a request for a nonviolent communication affinity group because we're just coming out of our communication session on a current cohort. In person, we have done in-person stuff pre-pandemic. They are supplemental and emergent. We have a few ideas in the works for this year, but nothing is currently planned. So it's not necessarily to be expected. But as Aaron shared, our alumni group is over 400 now, and we have nice kind of pockets, mostly around the country. There's some international as well, and we do want to activate those with some more in-person gatherings. So that's definitely a future intention, but it's still emergent. Also, following each session, there's an extra fun invitation. Nothing's required. It's a self-directed learning journey, so it's just according to your own inspiration. But there are invitations to practice and practice the concepts and even some specific tactics that are coming out of each session. If you want, there is a certificate that you can earn, and you have to attend or watch each session, give us feedback, and submit half of the extra funds, and you'll get a certificate. Let's see. Am I missing anything, Aaron? Structure?
Just that we definitely don't discourage on life, and we've had a lot of people in the course, find people in their region and connect and create little working groups, and anything we can do to facilitate that, we do happily. So maybe if that was helpful, I'll move on. Really beautiful of Kellen generously to honor and acknowledge that we can go to this next question around feeling aligned with Next Economy principles and ready to join, but curious or hesitant about the ability to participate and contribute fully given other demands or commitments in my life, and the spectrum of commitment cohort members might have, and also some context where someone might wait to enter the MBA program until a later time. I just had an email correspondence with someone who was interested and then just took on a full-time job and said, I think I'm going to look at the cohort in a future cohort for them. But one thing I will acknowledge in this is we have what we call a lifetime membership. And I really like to hold the arc or the journey of this course as rather than linear, as being quite cyclical. So for me, as a facilitator, I learn something new every session. And I deepen my awareness and embodiment of the Next Economy principles in every session. And it has been true for me that at some points in my arc of my consulting, I'm really focused on marketing. That's what my clients are in need of, is marketing support. And so those particular sessions are quite relevant to me in the current time in my life. And we've had alumni in similar positions. Right now, they're at the stage where they are financing their enterprise. So the session on fundraising and structuring your offering for investors or structuring your fundraising campaign is really salient. We also have a self-study module on that goes way deeper and has tons of resources you can do on your own time. But because all the sessions are recorded and also all the sessions are listed on a shared calendar, you can join the cohort and you can join subsequent cohorts as well. In fact, the cohorts we do run two cohorts that have a little bit of overlap. So you can even join the kind of tail end of the existing cohort if that's of interest to you, if there's particular sessions that stick out to you in that. So I guess the crux of what I wanted to share about this is they're looking at the whole syllabus and looking at all the components that we teach and really doing the self-analysis and reflection of like, which are the components that really I'm needing to utilize in my life right now. And we also really do encourage that those first 6 sessions where we go over developing shared language, we actually do community agreements together. We go through in depth the Next Economy principles and talk about a vision for an economy that works with no one left out. We get some shared understanding of what's broken with the economy as it stands, just so we're aligned on that. We're not kind of being implicit, but we're being explicit about what we feel is broken and coming to some shared alignment around that. So those first 6 sessions where we really lay the groundwork, we really encourage everyone to attend. And then we do see that in those live sessions, we'll see some attrition, and then we'll see some alumni come back for those live sessions. Because they're all recorded, we do see a strong component of each cohort watching the videos in evenings or weekends when they can't make the live sessions. We of course would love it if you can come live, because the participation is key, but we try to make it accessible to you to participate in other ways. Just checking, Tadong, was that supportive? Any follow-ons?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is, there's if personal matters like arise, it's not like this is your one chance, and if you miss it, like you're done. It's like the fact that if life shifts in a dramatic sense, that then you can come back and still continue to grow, like within the within the cohort. So yeah,
we're interested in being in a long-term relationship with you all. So that's where we're coming from. So Kellen, and then I see Yasmin. Is that right if we have Kellen first and then Yasmin? Okay.
Great. Hey, y'all. My question is, I was wondering if you could elaborate on some of the networking opportunities that are available through the course, whether it's with other people in your cohort or alumni or within the broader LIFT organizational network ecosystem. And maybe touch a little bit on maybe some of the guest speakers that I saw mentioned in the course outline as well.
Kevin or Sean, do either of you want to take this one?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed part of it.
I could jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Thanks.
Great question. So on the one hand, one thing we're doing is we have a means to connect alumni. So we mentioned 400 and a growing group of participants and alumni who have an incredible diversity of skills and experience and backgrounds and opportunities. And we've created opportunities to connect, not just within the cohort, but with the alumni group through, it was mentioned earlier, affinity groups around topics like regenerative agriculture, worker-owned cooperatives, building resilient communities, and some other themes. The themes are developed by that community, and we play a facilitation role to connect. I'm wondering, Sean or Aaron, just because I'm remote here, if somebody can grab the link of the alumni site, which is just a sampling of maybe a couple hundred of the 400 people, just so people could look through and see the amazing kind of people who have been involved, super inspiring people like yourselves. Within the broader network of people in the next economy, the facilitators like myself, whether in office hours or ad hoc one-on-ones or through the case stories and resources presented in the material during the facilitated sessions, we make our network available to Next Economy MBA participants and alumni by request or in dialogue. And that's something that is Michael, who was on here earlier, in his vocational journey, you know, we're able to connect him with opportunities for not just informational interviews, but work opportunities as he's kind of transitioning his career. And that's pretty common that within every cohort, we're able to extend all the relationships. At Lift Economy, we've had the privilege of working with 300 or more, you know, Next Economy organizations, and have, you know, literally a network of thousands of people who are at this forefront of transforming the economy for the benefit of all life, and very happy to avail the participants to, you know, be connected with that network as needed. In addition to that, there are some guest presenters during the course of the training, and there can be more. So during the normal course of the facilitated learning experience, it's typical that we have Jenny Casson, a legal counsel, kind of present, expert in alternative securities development for alternative fundraising, as well as an expert in cooperative and steward-owned structures for structuring enterprise or organizational opportunities. Jenny has been a perennial guest. We've had other guests from the Purpose Foundation. We have case stories in every facilitated session, and occasionally we have the founders or leadership of some of those cooperatives or organizations actually present their own case story, like Nia Evans from the Boston Ujima Project, just to name an example. But by request, when the participants are interested in a particular topic, we will organize a special session that's outside of the 18 facilitated sessions. A special session is where we can actually leverage our network at Lyft, connect with, you know, leading edge thinkers, doers, actors, activists, people who are taking action in developing and growing the next economy, and invite them in to share their story and be in dialogue with the participants. And we've done that, you know, over the course of the now 9 cohorts, soon to be 10, you know, dozens of times with bringing people in as requested. And so that's one mechanism for accessing the network. Aaron, Sean, anything I left out about networking opportunities?
I think you got it. Does that help, Kellen? Can we go to Yasmin's question?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine for now. Thanks.
We can catch more follow-ons in the chat too. And Yasmin, let's hear from you.
Hi. I was wondering if you could share some kind of like how student has they have integrated the class. So like maybe like some like before and after, like as an example, like I'm in like marketing and communication right now. So like maybe if you have like someone with that background and like how they use that course after in their career, or like some other example that could be useful to just kind of like picture how like after we could use it.
Can I go? Okay. One thing we do at the end of the course, session 17, we focus on the practicum of like, how does this appear in people's lives? And we invite participants to share who have really taken the content and applied it in some way. So actually, we just had a wonderful practicum share where a cooperative that was offering educational services, and they'd been around for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. And they had 2 members come through the course, and they really, so I mentioned before about this idea of wholeness. So if you did take every course section and every extra fun and really apply it to either your current business or your future business or something, you would kind of come out with what you could think of as a business plan. We don't really use that word. We think of it as a design, as a dynamic, evolving thing, not like something that gets printed and put it on the shelf, but something that's getting actively used. But this team shared how, you know, when we went through the vision, then they said, great. And they took the vision alignment exercise to their team. And they said, okay, everybody, we're doing a vision alignment now. Great. Okay. And then when we did culture, then they did a culture alignment with their team, core values with their team, and cultural investments. And then, so they kind of followed along with the curriculum. And they did performance enhancements, which was what we called, usually called reviews, right? But we're focusing on what's the outcome we want. So that we want to enhance performance. They did that with their team. They did operational systems upgrades along with our course. So that's something we really, you know, we like to encourage that real time through the questions and the dialogue in the course, but then we actually feature that also at the end to kind of hear that narrative arc of how some of the participants are actually, you know, really applying it. So that's just one story that just happened recently.
Awesome, thank you.
So going to Rex's question next, and then we'll go to this beautiful question from Katie. So Rex is asking about being part of being a social entrepreneur. Sometimes we call ourselves structure agnostic. We work with a lot of nonprofits. And so Rex, your question is, I'm running a grant funded project, thinking there's a social enterprise buried in there somewhere. So will this course give the tools to turn the project into a social enterprise, or know if that's a dead end? There's a couple sessions of the course that I think could be helpful for this. First, as I mentioned, those 1 through 6 sessions includes a session on enterprise case studies by structure, where we actually talk about, okay, why would someone pick a nonprofit as opposed to a corporation or a worker-owned cooperative, or structuring formally as a cooperative? And there's lots of ways to act as a cooperative without structuring as a cooperative. And then we go through, so once we're through the first 6 sessions, we go through what we call kind of our nuts and bolts of organizational design. We go through vision alignment. We go through culture. How do you build a team and recruit for a team that aligns with your values? How do you communicate well? The pieces that I think probably are, those pieces are critical for sustaining an endeavor, but really evaluating whether or not there's a business model there. I would say our sessions on strategy 1, positioning, is really key. Sort of understanding the value proposition, understanding if there's a market for the product or service. And then also when we go into operations, which is after strategy, we talk about operating projection and financial systems. That's going to be key for really assessing, can you deliver a good or service to the market at a price that the market will bear? And whether you do that with, you know, bringing in first loss, philanthropic capital to offset some of those costs. And then the last piece is, I'll say we do have 2 sessions on marketing. And really we could use a different word. We could use listening instead of marketing. It's like asking the question, is there a population out there in the world that is declaring that there is a pain point that my good or service can meet? And how do we really reframe marketing away from like selling unneeded goods and services to listening to what is needed in the world and responding to that. To your second question, this is so close to home, so heartfelt. Focus on increasing the availability of appropriate finance for agroecological and regenerative businesses. So will you walk away from this course and have an understanding of the business as usual of finance so you can better relate to conventional investors, and have tools to reimagine future financial systems? We do have a couple places in the course where we talk about this, and I will say the orientation of the course is around literacy as opposed to competency. So literacy about the structure of venture capital, yes, we cover that. Why is it that the return expectations are set up in such a way as to be antithetical to really supporting people and planet? We go through that. We unpacked LPs and all of that. We also talk in our first 6 sessions around, the psychosocial critique of some of the entrenched systems, like interest-bearing debt that is like a foundation that we're all living under, and how that can be a problem. And we actually brought in a guest speaker that was amazing, Mark Evangelisti, to do a deep dive with us on solutions and problems around money and finance. So yes, we will touch on it. And, this could be a lifetime of work and learning. And so what I like to say around the orientation of this program is, I don't actually know how deep I want to be absorbing all the business as usual finance rhetoric and terms, but I want to know enough so that I can effectively communicate and be a player in those conversations to posit alternatives. So that's kind of our orientation in the course as well. Not that you would walk away, being able to talk, one-to-one with a banker, at the high level of the World Bank, but that you would have enough to really connect on viable alternatives to our current business as usual systems. Sean or Kevin, anything to add?
I would just build on that. Kevin mentioned Jenny Casson, who comes in for our fundraising session. She starts with values alignment with the investors. So there's going to be some tension on how conventional the investors are and if they actually align with your vision and values. Because if they don't, you might be giving up control and then losing control, and then your beautiful, innovative, nourishing idea for a new world quickly gets co-opted and turned into something old and serving to concentrate wealth for already wealthy people, which is a mental illness. We don't need any more of that, right? So, like Aaron's saying, it's like, how much do we want to connect with conventional investors? Well, are they on the edge of using their resources for innovation or not? Because if we're just going to concentrate more wealth, then that's not very interesting. So it's important to understand, but if that vision and values alignment's not there, then there's only so far you can go with a partnership. So that's kind of a starting point.
Oh, we've got so many good questions coming up. With regards to Katie's question, I thought I might share the 2 curves framework. Does that seem like it would make sense to share? So Katie, I'm trying to find your, yeah. So the question Katie's holding is how this course can be applied to corporate structures rather than entrepreneurial or social enterprise, really coming with this intention to eventually shift others' behavior and beliefs. Thank you for holding that. Oh my goodness, such important work. So I'm actually not, oh yeah, Katie's still on. So I'm gonna share my screen. Give me 1 second. So what I wanted to share is this framework that we go through right at the beginning of the course. And it's actually a framework that Jeanette brought up earlier in the session. So I wanted to kind of circle back around. So if you can see my cursor, or just at the top of the screen, what I'm sharing, business as usual economy, I know I've used that term a lot in this session. That's sort of what we use to refer to the current economic directional path that is, endless growth, no limits to consumption. And a lot of folks would argue that that is headed to collapse, right? There is an existential nature to that pathway for humanity. And so, Katie, your question around when we ask ourselves, well, how do we, if the inevitable outcome of that business as usual economy trajectory is collapse, or ecocide, if you will, the fact that humans might not be able to sustain ourselves on this beautiful planet, then what are ways that we can intervene to transform that trajectory? And so we give this framework of folks that, like you, Katie, that are doing the incredibly hard work of actually stopping the harm of businesses, entities that are on track perpetuating that business as usual mindset, that limitless growth. What we would characterize your work as is hospice work. How do you gracefully, compassionately, effectively help that system to collapse before it creates collapse of the human species? And then on the other flip side, there is the midwifery work that is creating completely new models outside of those existing entities and infrastructure, that are creating new ways of transacting, new ways of doing business, new ways of creating consensus and decision making, new ways of sharing goods and resources. And that together, those two frameworks, if we just had the hospice work, like if we just had, I don't want to call any one particular person out, but if we just had all the green sustainability corporate arms, if that was just the future forever, it would be wholly inadequate. We would not get to the shift that is needed. But the more hospice work is out there, the more Patagonias that give away the company, the more visible the midwifery work becomes, and the more, because midwifery can be really hard and very marginalized. And so we talk more about this framework, and that was a pretty cursory explanation of the framework, but that's one framework that we've seen really helpful for our alumni to hold where they are at any given moment in their work to transition us toward the next economy.
Thank you, Erin. That was really helpful.
All right. I want to say, if folks who do need to leave, we are coming up on the hour, so we totally acknowledge if you need to leave. I can stay a little bit past the hour to answer follow-up questions that are still alive in folks. So I can stay probably 10 or 15 minutes longer, but definitely if you need to leave, we're still recording, and feel free, don't hesitate. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I do have to jump to get on a client call, but really wonderful to see you all. And please stay in touch. We'd love to have you in the course. But also this is a long journey, folks. So we're a resource. Stay involved, and keep us posted with what you're up to, and we'd love to collaborate with you in some way.
Yes. I see Kellen's question around how visual are the live sessions. This one would be, let's see, I would say choose your own adventure. We do keep a lot of visuals accessible because we've had a lot of feedback from participants that, especially when we're dealing with heady content, it's hard to digest unless we have the visuals to complement. So really, from a place of accessibility, we're adding those visuals. And I personally often will take a walk in the woods while I'm on a session. So choose your own adventure. I think it's really important for us to balance the self-care in this course and be able to be connecting to that more than human world and larger larger wisdom around us. And so I don't think it would compromise your experience of the course by make sure your phone has a lot of charge is what I would advise you, because sometimes there might be a link in the chat that you'd want to click through to.
Sean said there were dance breaks too, so if I can skip the walk if there's dance breaks.
Oh yeah, dance breaks. And then I'm seeing Alex's question coming from the nonprofit public education organizer space and arriving with a robust social justice framework already, seeking hard skills development. Could you speak to how the curriculum is developed and who it's best suited for? Will it be accessible to someone with little business education or skills? Does it favor hard skills development over theoretical discussion? And please expand on what kinds of career networking support Next Economy provides. Thank you for this question, Alex. This is really beautiful. Maybe I could take a piece of it and then see if Kevin, if you can stay on and you want to add to it.
Sure, I can stay on and add.
Okay. So great that you're arriving with a robust social justice framework already. Very, very grateful for that, because I think that just really makes the entry point into the kind of nuts and bolts that is being taught much more salient and digestible. I do want to say, in terms of the hard skills, this one's a little tricky, because there are misconceptions in standard MBA kind of approaches around what kind of skills are most critical for success. And I will say, that kind of binary of hard skills versus soft skills, I try and stay away from it a little bit, because, for example, nonviolent communication or compassionate communication is often considered to be one of the more soft skills. And in our decade of working with hundreds of social enterprises, we've found that one of the most contributive to dissolution or breakup or failure of organizations and entities is conflict. And largely that conflict is tied to a lack of ability to communicate across differences, or to create dialogue that seeks to look at a shared dilemma as opposed to like adversarial. And so while we do work on financials, operating models, we cover those in the session. We will work on a strategic positioning statement, and how do you write your core value proposition. Some of those things that might be considered hard skills. We also will cover what might be more considered soft skills, but we frame it up in the context of, this could be a make or break for the longevity of your organization if you don't invest in things like culture, if you don't invest in processes that come to shared alignment around values. One other thing I want to say, and then Kevin, I'd love to hear you build on what I'm sharing. We have had the development of the curriculum and the principles. One, it's highly interactive to our alumni community. So we are very responsive, and in fact, the curriculum has been evolved by the participants over time. So now we're coming into cohort 10. You get the benefit of the 400 people who've gone before, who've given feedback and said, hey, we need more visuals, or hey, this was confusing how you presented this, or hey, you didn't acknowledge this whole population in the way you presented this. We need more representation. So that's one piece. And then the other piece I would say is that we have had kind of like third-party auditors, if you will, one of whom is our an alumni of the program, Miliaku Nabweze of TAG Consulting, kind of went through and looked at the whole curriculum and pedagogy from a lens of anti-racism, anti-oppression, which is their kind of focus and experience and work. And really like audited the curriculum from that lens. And Kevin, do you want to expand and or touch on this kinds of career networking support piece to this question?
Sure, I'll briefly expand on the orientation of the curriculum. Gonna quick check, Erin, and make sure my voice is coming through and not too choppy.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Great. The one way I describe it is that given 18 live facilitated sessions of 90 minutes, the first 2 sessions being 2 hours, and of course there's the office hours, which are more emergent in terms of the content that gets explored. There's not a tremendous amount of time for deep skill building of skills that require lots of protracted practice. So we did design the curriculum, what I would call a literacy orientation, which is kind of like this. It's like an example would be, there's this principle of inclusive ownership and equitable governance, 2.2 of the Next Economy Principles. And in one of the sessions, session 8, we talk about some of the expressions of some of those principles. And one of the expressions is something like how to do equitable compensation practices within an organization. And we talk about models like self-set salaries and open book management. And there's a literacy of like, oh, I didn't know that there was organizations where they do self-determined salaries using an open book, open access and transparent access to all of the financial information in the organization. So there's a discovery, a literacy of that's possible. There's case stories presented and references and resources related to those expressions of that principle. But the skill building of actually practicing how to do self-set salary, whether you use a salary committee or whether you do it in a banding plus or a merit-based racial equity reparations compensation. There's multiple mechanisms which are explored, but the actual doing of them and working within an organization, that takes a bit of practice and the competency to be able to like do that. We give extra fun and exercises and references to show the pathway of how to do it, but to actually go through and determine what's the best for my organization and how to practice it. There's kind of that would require more time. So one thing we've responded to that need for certain topics, like I think Sean and Aaron may have mentioned the raising capital one as an example. We have self-studies which are self-directed learning opportunities, self-paced. So for example, the how to raise capital one in a way that's aligned with your values is like 9 hours of content with 10 times the number of references and resources and actual practical exercises to practice some of the skill building around.
Oh no, we just lost your audio, Kevin. Can you hear us? Okay,
Assuming I dropped off.
It's a little bit choppy now, but we got most of that. That's great.
Okay. So the self studies are one of our responses to which we're in the development of to more competency and skill building. The office hours and the interfunds are great opportunities for that. I mentioned earlier that for networking opportunities for vocational possibilities, that the facilitators and the alumni, there's multiple mechanisms to make requests for connections. We're trying to get better at facilitating that with more ease. But there are examples of which we're starting to get really delighted about, figuring out better ways to track it, where somebody in cohort 3 has hired somebody from cohort 5. And so that we're starting to see those connections. And that's something that we're really excited to see more of and track a little bit more closely. And so in all candor, we're trying to get better at tracking that and making sure we can facilitate it. Back to you, Aaron. I hope I wasn't too choppy.
No, it was great. Thank you. I think we caught that last section. Alan, I see your hand. I want to address Lisa's question and Natalie's question because I think they can be somewhat bundled. Actually, yeah. And then can we go to you? Is that all right? Okay. So Lisa is asking, in a career transition, does this course provide support for turning ideas into projects or businesses? And then Natalie similarly is asking, in your role as working with an innovative consulting venture building entity, you're responsible for structuring the impact side of business. And you'd like to know if and how do you approach business creation process from idea to MVP or minimum viable product, for example, and insert impact lenses to this process. So I will just speak briefly on this. One of the sessions I haven't mentioned is in session 6, we have a session called Personal Life Design. And Lisa, specific to your question, we actually have that really early on in the training, which is probably a little bit outside of the norm of an MBA course. The reason being our choices around the quality of life we want, the types of connections, our personal goals, and the vision of where we see our greatest joy in life coming into being and into play in the work we do in the world. We think that is critical for a successful transformation to the next economy. And we actually ask our alumni community to go with us on that journey and start there with the personal life design as a first step to any sort of ideation of a service or offering that you would bring into the world. So then to Natalie's question around what the process is, we definitely allude to processes like the business model canvas or the lean startup model. And really for us, that is the bulk of our curriculum, is how to go through that process each step of the way in helping to how do you build a team around even the ideation of a business that you'd want to bring into the world. And so that I guess my shorthand answer would to respond to both those questions is that process is kind of the nuts and bolts of the arc of the journey after those first 6 sessions, by us going through vision, culture, strategy, operations. That kind of is our process for designing and it's built on over a decade of working with social enterprises and really understanding what are the patterns and principles we've seen for organizations to succeed or fail in really bringing something that is that has the capability to transform our business as usual economy into something that is more life-serving and impact oriented. Did that help, Lisa and Natalie? Did that answer some of the core of the question? You might not be able to unmute, so we'll keep moving if there's no follow-up.
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you. I answered in the chat.
Oh, yeah, I was writing in the chat. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Alan, and then we'll probably have to wrap. This might be our last question.
Good. Yeah, the last question helped me a lot too. Thanks. So my question is a short one. I'm a veteran for peace, and I might be able to get funding for an MBA program, but they're talking about an accredited program. Is that I'm not sure about that with Lift Economy.
We're not an accredited program, so we wouldn't count as that. And part of the reason why we're not an accredited Next Economy MBA program, or MBA program, I should say, is we've actually it would require us to make some compromises to the curriculum, likely, and also the time frame for us to engage in academic institutional accreditation. It would add a lot of costs to our program, which would undermine the accessibility component of our course. And so we've also had feedback from experts who've gone through that whole accreditation process, and Kevin and I were speaking on a panel, and we were speaking with someone who's really dove deep into how to change the businesses that are accredited and bring in more impact and bring in more environmental ethos. And he said, good on you for not going with an accreditation. We do have a certificate of completion that we can give to anyone who's gone through the program. We have a few little requirements, like we ask that you fill out some of the extra fun, which is our word for homework, we ask that you give us feedback on the course, and then we'll give you a certificate of completion. And that has helped in the past for companies or employers that want to fund professional development courses. So we have had folks use professional development funds to go through our course. And it might be a great opportunity to engage in a conversation around why the funds are only able to be used for accredited courses. But yeah, that's the short answer to this is not an accredited course.
Okay, yeah, that was good. I know the next economy wants to be part of the new economy, so that makes a lot of sense. And then the fee is already very reasonable, so that's good to know also.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Alex. Oh, this is such a good question. I can stay on to answer this last question, and then I do think I need to run. This is so sweet. Yeah, if you have additional questions, we do have one more free intro session in February. I think it's February 27th or so, somewhere around there. And this question around demographics, could you share some stats? Based out of the Midwest, consider yourself somewhat of a nomad regions. So regions would be outside of the Hudson Valley, California nexus. We've got Atlanta is our region. We do have some like Minneapolis, Minnesota, folks there. We've got Texas as a region. We've got the Pacific Northwest region. And then in terms of like the quick stats, we're really honored and humbled that over 50% of our alumni and participants are women and persons of color or bodies of culture. So those are just some quick stats. And then I think I'm not sure if I have the stats exact, but I know that it is like at least 80% is based in the US, but then increasingly we have more global participation. We've had folks take the course from Mexico, Peru, and UK, India, and also off of the mainland US as well. Okay, everybody, thanks for sticking with this. Oh my gosh, so good to meet you all and share time and space with you. Thank you for bringing these beautiful questions, and yeah, don't hesitate to follow up. I'll drop my email in the chat if you have any other questions. And yeah, thank you for your work out in the world. We need you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.